But I think what's so important is when we look at forgiveness is that it's not about the past. You guys, it's not about the past. It's how are you going to move forward in the future? Like, are you going to move forward in the future carrying this with you? Or are you going to lighten your load by letting it go? That was me, and this is the YTP. Welcome back, you guys. Episode 5 here, and today I welcome back the Beej, and we're talking about forgiveness. We tackle a listener email on this topic, and it's something that we've all had to deal with on some level in our lives. And BJ and I dive into our own experiences as well as a shared experience that has left us estranged from a family member for almost 4 years now. I mean, it's hard to believe, but time just adds up, and it's been almost 4 years since we've talked to this person, and you'll learn more about that on the episode today. But we discuss how we've healed from this and how we've cultivated the ability to love this person from afar. You know, forgiveness does not always have to be an in-person discussion. In fact, the true healing from resentment or blame is an inside job. And in many senses, you know, it's easier just to keep the ill feelings because to forgive is to break a pattern. And but we believe that all beings want to be happy, and I know BJ and I want to be happy, and so forgiveness of ourselves or another person is so essential to our ability to find joy in this life. I used to hate forgiveness because it made me feel vulnerable, and with vulnerability, I had to be open to feel emotions and sensation, and I was like a brick house. There was nothing that was going to shake this girl. Clearly, I found another way to be unshakable, and in that, I found my ability to be vulnerable so that I can feel everything. Because what I've discovered is that is the pathway to true power, and true power is compassion and love and understanding and forgiveness, you guys. So for me, all that kind of running away from not feeling things and not forgiving just buried everything deeper, and it increased negativity in my life. You know, not being able to forgive left me in a state of despair. But it wasn't all in unwillingness. So here's the thing that I really untapped today is that I didn't know how to forgive. So, you know, I'm so excited to share in this episode very specific techniques around how to release blame, resentment, and find forgiveness on all levels. So we hope you enjoyed today's episode, so much so that you leave a review on iTunes. Yes, we are now on iTunes. You can subscribe. We'll come to you every week. And it would help us out so much if you left a review about your Yogi Triathlete podcast experience. So now I'm going to leave you to listen and contemplate the vast yet simplistic act of forgiveness. So how many times do you think you're going to wear that shirt before you wash it? I mean, they're pretty unbelievable. Like, I can definitely go classes. I don't think they ever stink. I don't think my tanks ever stink. But every once in a while you have that ethical thing, like you should wash it, right?
Sometimes you just need to throw it in the laundry, give in. But I like to push it. I think you do too. Like, see how many days you can go wearing the shirt.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes a little while to dry off and doesn't stink.
So tell the listeners what we're talking about here.
So Lululemon has a line of clothing they consider no stink. So when you wear it, you can wear it multiple times, sweat in it, and it won't stink.
Yeah, like they actually recommend that you don't wash it. Like, definitely don't wash it every time. And I've got some tanks that I teach in. My classes are super, super sweaty. They are super soakers. And you're running all the time. And many people might think that you have, or that we have a lot of training clothes, but we don't. Like, you've got that one long sleeve, no stink.
I have a Lululemon long sleeve and a Lululemon short sleeve. And together, they form the base layer for my winter running and spring running, basically. And I wear them, soak them, and I get them pretty worked into. And then I just let them dry over the door, and they dry in a few hours, and then I put them on the next day because I work out every day.
Yeah, I for a long time, and I'm going to admit this, and we have a really close relationship with Lululemon now, just because we know a lot of people that work there, and we've done talks there, and we've done photos for them. They've actually helped us out with promoting our workshops. They're amazing. And I guess that leads up to what I was going to say, is that for a long time before I knew them, I really thought it was just overpriced clothing. And then I would hear from some of my students like, yeah, until you put a pair of their pants on, right? And they just fit so amazing. But my thing was always like, which is so judgmental, and it's me just projecting, was like, well, where's their give back? Where's their give back? Like, and I remember I would look at their site, like, where's their donation? Like, what are they giving back to? What are they saving? And then when they opened their pop-up shop in Newport last year, I saw their give back. I experienced their give back, and I am sold on them, because they just integrate into the community, and they were picking up trash on the beach, and they were great people. We had a great crew. They joined our running group. Remember our running group on Friday mornings, and so I guess what I'm saying is that don't hold your judgments too close until you have all the information, because I really have found that they are very much a community-based store, and that when they go into the community, they're not just there to open up a shop and make a ton of money. They're going to make a ton of money because their clothes are amazing, but they're gonna be a part of the community, and that's really not what they told me, but what I saw last year. And so it's only been about a year and a half or so that I've been wearing their clothes, and then through that you started wearing their stuff. But the technology is amazing.
Yeah, and the community just is so in line with what Yogi Triathlete is trying to build and pursue.
Yeah.
So it aligns so well, and they were just super cool. And
yeah,
their clothing is awesome. The Lululemon men wear that I have on. I have those shorts that you bought me.
I know.
Love the shorts. I just ran in them, actually.
And you're I see that you need clothes, right? And then I just go and buy it, and I don't necessarily tell you how much it is, because you are definitely the money blocker in our house. You're the one that blocks our abundance, but not as much anymore, right? So this idea of blocking abundance, you guys, it's just if we always live in this fear that we're not going to have enough, right? The universe just looks at that and says, oh, okay, well, they're praying to not have enough, so let's definitely make sure that we not give them enough. And when you just open up to the possibilities, which are endless, abundance starts to flow in if you just let it, right?
Yeah, remain open, keep all channels open, and just it'll come in. And I know I'm the one who blocks it. That's a fact.
You're getting so much better. I mean, as I have gotten so much better at things over the years, and this is segueing so perfect into what we're going to be talking about today.
What are we going to be talking about today?
Well, we're going to be talking about something that I had a really hard time with for a long time. But we got an email from a listener, and I think this is going to be a relevant topic for anyone who is in a human body is going to find that this is relevant. So here's the email. This may be a topic for its own podcast, or out of scope for you two. What? Nothing's out of scope for us. Though you did say nothing was off limits. Yep, we did say nothing was off limits. But I would love to get your and BJ's thoughts on forgiveness. Have you ever had trouble forgiving someone or even yourself? And can you use mindfulness to achieve that? Has your life grown through practicing forgiveness? Thanks, guys, and I look forward to following your journey. Yes, this is such a wonderful topic to talk about. And can mindfulness help with it? What can mindfulness not help with? I mean, athletic performance, and forgiveness. It's one very simple practice, and it covers everything. It covers everything, you guys, that we could ever need. So, I think I want to start this off with you, BJ. Because how I just said, that mindfulness really, it's like this one little, it's a very simple recipe and you can apply it to everything. I think forgiveness is another topic that you can apply to so many different situations in life, right? And so from an athlete standpoint, and we can get into deeper stuff, but this is deep too. I don't want to sell the athletic experience short. Have you experienced it like as an athlete, like forgiveness, either having to forgive someone like on the course, like somebody who may have wronged you, right? Or an experience that you've had in triathlon where you actually had to like forgive yourself?
Yeah, I think I can speak to both instances. One more fulfilling in the end than the other one, and I can speak to my first experience, which was in Ironman Coeur d'Alene in 2010, when it was my first DNF. So that's big in an Ironman. For those of you out there, you invest so much time, energy, money, resources into getting you to that one day, and not being able to finish can weigh heavily on you. And in 2010, it did. And I had gone into the training, coaching myself, and really took it out pretty hard in training. And when I got to race day, I didn't feel that punch. And when I got through the whole swim, I got through the whole bike and about 18 miles of the run, and I just had to shut down. I think I had the chills. Might have been a little.
I don't think you actually remember it correctly, but you had to shut down. You were shutting down. Like your body was shutting down.
It was shivering.
And what was reported to me was that you were starting to like lose your hearing. You were starting to like not be able to see, and you stopped at an aid station. And I think maybe the person at the aid station told you to like sit down or whatever. And then once then they called the medics over for you, but your body essentially was shutting down. You were completely overtrained. It was a hot day. Of course, I'm on the sidelines telling you to like man up and go faster. And we were there with our friend Leanne, and she's like, he doesn't look that good. I'm like, oh, he can do this. Cause I wasn't seeing it for what it was. Had I seen it for what it was, had either of us seen the warning signs that you had leading up to it, of course, we probably wouldn't even have had you on that course that day. But that's what was happening, is that your body was shutting down. I mean, and it was just going to start turning off the lights in priority.
I was super fit going into this race, but it masked the fatigue and big drain on my body. And I didn't really see it until I watched that YouTube video back to when it was 3 or 4 weeks before Ironman, and I was doing double big workouts. And we can link to that video because I think it's important to see what kind of state I was in at that moment. But to get back to that moment at 18 miles, I was shivering. Like you said, it was hot, and I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I started drinking chicken soup, to warm myself up. I put the space blanket on, and it wasn't working, and the sun was beating down, and I was still cold. So your thermometer was breaking. Your internal thermometer was breaking, which is like where you go from heat exhaustion, when you start to move into heat stroke, and then from heat stroke, if you don't get that under control, you're basically dead, right? I mean, I'm not an EMT, but I kind of know how the body works, and once that thermometer breaks, and yours was en route. Yeah, I had to go back to the medical tent. I got picked up by the ambulance and brought, or whatever the paddy wagon was, and brought back to the med tent. And they gave me IV, and they warmed me up, and eventually I came back around. But I can remember my mental state was in disarray. And I remember going to lunch the next day with Leanne or the day after, because we usually build vacations into our Ironmans where we'll stay a few days after. And I wasn't in a good space. I think I was putting on a good face for Leanne because she had traveled all that way, being the great friend that she is and support. But I wasn't doing well inside, and I don't think I had forgiven myself. So this is the very thing that we're talking about.
Yeah. So we really have I think overtraining, it's such a great experience for you to have as a coach, right? Because it's going to give you a very keen eye. Like you have a very keen eye now because you experienced it. And so this is when we think that things are a mistake or we think that things shouldn't have happened. Well, that's just foolish waste of time because everything is perfectly calculated to the divine blueprint of your life. And so you were supposed to have that experience. And we believe that it really came to a head in those last few weeks of training before your taper. So explain what you did. And I think the first like weekend workout or whatever, it was when I filmed that video, which we should have known. Like if anybody saw that video who had experience with this would have been like, oh my God, this guy is so overtrained. But so we looked back at what maybe you had quote unquote like done wrong. And so it was the forgiveness around that. And what was that? So first explain that. Like what was that you did that we look back and we say, oh God, you should not have done that?
So I attempted to do a double day of hard. So I think it was a Friday and Saturday of a hard bike off to a hard run. And I did it on Friday. And then I think I went even longer on Sunday.
You were hammering up.
So this is the greatest ride. So you start at.
Anyone in Boulder, Colorado knows this ride.
So you go to the, what was that gas station? It was the best place to go.
On 75th?
Yes.
I would always get a bag of super salty Boulder chips. At mile 70, anything after mile 70, I would just let myself go.
That's your reward.
I would go, and then I would feel like crap eating them, but you know.
Well, I would start this ride, which I did quite often, with a Go Fast energy drink and a peppermint patty.
Oh, gross.
Disgusting. I can't think I'm doing that now.
This is pre-plant power.
Right.
Pre-plant power and a lot of chicken, probably. You were probably pretty heavy on the chicken at that point.
So I would start that ride. I would bike out there. So that was about an hour ride from where we lived in South Boulder to that gas station. And then I would head directly due west into the foothills of of Boulder. And I would be pushing, a steady zone 3 effort from there all the way up Left-Hand Canyon all the way to Ward. And then I would cruise back down from Ward down to the base of 36. And then I would hammer it back up to...
How many miles do you think that was? 5 miles?
It wasn't... No, that was quite long.
Oh, yeah, to Ward. Yeah.
To Ward.
And it got super steep at the end.
And then it would come back down, like I said, to 36. And then it would hammer back up to that smaller one. I forgot what the name of that was.
Oh, the split where...
Yeah, so I wouldn't go left hand. I would go up to that other place that was there. Magnolia, maybe.
I don't think that's
I can't think of it.
Oh my God, our memories are starting to fade. We're letting go of our Boulder days.
And I would hit that hard up, and then I would cruise back down to 36. And then from 36 all the way down to South Boulder, I would TT the effort. So time
hammer
trial.
Time. And then you would come home and what? Go out for
run
a run?
for an 8 to 10 mile run at race pace, if not faster.
So that first, you had been doing this like progressively in your training. But
every weekend.
This was probably, 3 weeks out from Ironman, and you didn't finish it. So you came in the house, head hanging low, looking like a ghost. I filmed you in the basement. This is the video we're going to link to. You're completely overtrained. You're sweating like crazy. You're delusional, like you're a crazy person. I think I'm laughing. I had never seen overtraining before, clearly. And then what happened? And then what did you do? Because was there like a forgiveness thing there? Like you couldn't forgive yourself for not
completing the workout.
Yeah, like you were carrying that around. So it's such, you like the ego opened up, its little trap, and you walked right in, and it snapped it behind you and kept you in there.
And I went out and tried to attempt it the next day, the same workout.
Was it oh my God, I thought it was the next week.
No, it was the next day. I wanted to get back out there. Are
you sure? I think it was the next weekend, which is really when you should have been tapering. I think that's what it was, is that you hammered this workout, and it was the first weekend that you should have been tapering and taking things down. And actually now, what we know now, we actually even do like longer kind of taper downs. But that's what happened.
Yeah, it was too close. I was going too long, too hard, too close to the race date.
Yeah, it's probably a rite of passage for anyone who's trying to qualify for Kona, to do those things that you just described.
Lesson learned.
Lesson learned. So how did you forgive yourself for that?
At first, it was pretty. I don't think I forgave myself. Obviously, I was pretty hard on myself. Like, I put all this time and effort in, and a big commitment, but I realized I think that I wouldn't be able to move forward if I didn't close this period of my life. So this failure, this DNF, which so many of us can relate to, I believe, but probably don't give it any attention. But I think you need to close that chapter. And what I did finally was just move on. I said, I'm going to take a break from Ironman. This is what I need to do.
Oh my God, you did. Yeah, you did. You totally took a break.
I took a step away. I somehow brought myself to the point of, this is a sign that I've been going very hard. These are intense races. It's intense on your body, intense on your mind, and on your family. And I think I needed to just take a break. And that's what I did. I took a break from Ironman in 2011 and 2012. I didn't do any Ironman. I just took a serious break and step away and think about things. Is this the right way to go? Is this something I want to pursue? But I think in that moment, I sort of forgave myself, saying, this is the effort you put out. It was too much, too close. What have you learned, and how can you apply that for future races and training? And it's actually what I use now in my coaching. I do refer to those instances where I know I was pushing too hard. Yeah,
and forgiveness is not. It's not about the past. It's about the future, right? Like, it's not about the past. It's like you can't move forward until you forgive. And so for you, it sounds like it was a process of you just beat the heck out of yourself for a while, and just, sometimes it's easier to just beat ourselves up, right? It's just easier to do that than breaking a pattern, right? So to hold resentment, which I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but maybe resented yourself a bit for screwing up this, chance. I remember you were just so we spent so much money to come and do the trip and everything, and you just were really, really regretting so much about it and so much of what you did. And how can you move forward unless you drop that? But so it sounds like you just added to it for a little while, beat yourself up, right? Which is easier, because in order to move forward, you got to break that pattern. And the ego does not like to break patterns. It wants to keep you in that state of suffering. But you stay there for a little while, and then it sounds like over time, walking away allowed you the perspective to come back. But I think what's so important is when we look at forgiveness is that it's not about the past. You guys, it's not about the past. It's how are you going to move forward in the future? Are you going to move forward in the future carrying this with you, or are you going to lighten your load by letting it go?
One instance was with Leanne there. I thought about, she made this investment to come travel, and I let her down. And I'm sure a lot of athletes have expectations that they feel other people will think about their performance.
Yeah. So you were a little bit of a victim, I let her down.
Yeah.
And, being the victim, so the ego wants to cast you as the victim or the victimizer, right? It's, and so there you're the but you were the victim and the victimizer, because you ruined everyone's vacation, and you DNF'd, and you did it all because of you, right? So see how it does it? It just wants to keep pushing you down into that muddy hole and then cover it up so you suffocate in resentment and blame and just self-loathing.
And as I always say lately, is all that energy was going into this resentment. All this energy was going into feeling sorry for myself, when now I just take all that energy and move it forward. Close that chapter and move forward.
Yeah, because to hold yourself in a state of forgiveness is to never allow yourself to live or love fully. It will never allow you to be whole as long as you hang on to it. And I know we're using this example of your race. We have some other examples, I think, but the message and the teachings are the same. And, there's scientific evidence about forgiveness, and people who have been able to forgive in scientific studies. And I'll put a link to at least one article that I'm familiar with. But what it does is when you're carrying around that resentment and that, we're going to call it low vibe because this is the Yogi Triathlete podcast, and that's super low vibe. You were super low vibe during that time. You start to lose your ability to function fully. There's parts of the brain that are like responsible for problem solving and complex thoughts and thinking and reasoning, and that stuff starts to get compromised in people who have not forgiven. And then there's other things like it's people who have forgiven have less diagnosed chronic conditions and fewer physical symptoms from illness, right? So we're lighter. So if you think about resentment as being a really low vibration, like a darker energy, like illness and cancer, cancer, that's like candy for cancer, to take that anger or resentment and keep it suppressed inside. And we talked about this in the injury and mindfulness episode about how that energy is going to start to fester, right? And so you're not going to be in balance and whole as long as you're hanging on to this. And so what happens when we're able to forgive is that, it takes us from this place of dis-ease, and then it moves us more towards emotional, physical, and spiritual balance. But, people who also have been taught to forgive, and we're going to talk about the how on this, they're less angry, they're more optimistic, they're more compassionate, they're more self-confident, and they carried less stress. So all of this has been found through different scientific studies. And again, I'll put a link in the show notes to check that out. But the one thing that I want people to really consider when they're thinking about forgiveness is there is this like flow of unconditional forgiveness that is inherent to the world we live in. So think about like if you bump into someone at the grocery store, you go, "Oh, I'm sorry." "Oh, no problem." But there's something there, like they bumped into you or you bumped into them. So there's like, forgiveness is forgiveness. It doesn't matter how little it is or how big it is. It's going to feel different, of course. But we are conditioned to, our nature is to forgive, right? And it's this like, oh, it's okay. It's like this loving kindness. And so think about how many times in your life you have been forgiven unconditionally. I know personally that I have not always functioned from a place of love. And so there's been a lot of forgiveness that has been offered to me. And so if we're looking at forgiving another, right? Think about how many times you've been forgiven by someone else. If we're talking about forgiving ourselves, think about how many times you've been forgiven by others. The same thing. I think self-forgiveness is probably one of the toughest ones. Yeah? Do you agree?
I do, but I can see it being challenging, though, in relating back to our last podcast about forgiving yourself in even a workout in training. Like, how can you move on if you haven't finished the workout? You know?
So it's, I love Sharon Salzberg, who is a meditation teacher here in America. I love the way she describes forgiveness as like stretching. It's like this intentional movement outside of the normal way that we hold things, like out of the normal way that we hold our body. So she says like forgiveness is like stretching, right? So you kind of open up to see that maybe there is an opportunity in there to forgive. And when you look at, that free-flowing unconditional forgiveness that's always there, you have to believe that it's possible for you to move through these feelings and completely let go of a situation. And so you and I had a situation with a family member.
Yes, my sister.
Yeah. It was really like a intense experience that we had, and we both had to work with forgiveness on our own
level.
On our own levels.
Because it's different. She's family for me, and she's family to you by marriage.
Right.
So definitely different experiences, and the anger and intensity was mostly directed at you.
Yes,
Yes,
it was. I was the recipient of most of it.
The root cause, and so that might be my biggest forgiveness.
Yeah, because you haven't.
I haven't.
I mean, for me, it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit easier to walk away. It's not. Well, I don't want to say that. It's because now that I've forgiven, right, and that I can honestly say that I love her unconditionally, and I'm completely at peace. I guess that's what I mean when I say walk away. I'm just choosing not to be in the vibration, but for you, this is somebody you spent, 40 years with. Mm-hmm. And I think people listening might be able to relate to this.
Yeah, I mean, it probably happens more so in families than you would think, and it just never goes discussed. It sort of just exists.
Yeah, well,
right?
Yeah, I mean, that is the case in this particular situation. Both you and I grew up in families that we didn't really discuss a lot.
No.
Which is probably like why I was so pissed for so many years. Pissed, I didn't even know I was so angry. I really didn't. But now I see now all the healing that I've gone through. But there are families that actually communicate. I think that if we had little two-leggeds running around, that we'd probably instill that kind of energy just because of where we are now.
Sure.
But yeah, so in that particular situation, it was a family party, right? So just give we don't have to go into crazy details. I mean, there's not a lot of crazy details anyway.
Yeah, it was a family party. It was a get together for one of my parents' anniversaries, and we were living here. Yeah, we had moved back from Boulder. We were here in Newport, and we showed up, and the intensity in the kitchen, in a moment where you and I were there.
There was something already there that was directed at us before we even came in.
Yeah.
And I think there was resentment there that maybe we didn't help out enough with the party.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had just come off of Ironman Lake Placid, right? Like, anybody who knows,
right.
I cannot be responsible for planning parties or having any kind of social interaction when I'm training for an Ironman. But anyway, we went to the party. No, we didn't bring anything. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, because you were in contact with your sister, and her and I have never really been too close. And I think she said, that you were supposed to bring something.
I thought I did, but maybe I didn't.
And that never got translated to me, which would have been the preparer of that food. So I think
that's the root of what we're getting at.
Well,
right?
I don't think it's the root, but I think that was this is how simple it is, you guys. When we hold things in, it's something as simple as like, you didn't bring a salad to this party. I mean, that can really make somebody explode who's holding resentment.
Right.
And I think that that's really accurate, that there was resentment that was being held. And it was all from a place of a lot of pain and suffering.
And it was extremely explosive, and it was aimed directly at you, and then some of it was aimed at me, and the situation was getting intense, and we decided it would be better for in the best interest of everyone at the party and for us if we had just left.
Yeah, if we had just left.
And so we left, and from that moment, I honestly haven't spoken to my sister.
That was 2012.
2012.
So going on 4 years.
4 years now. And at this point, I've forgiven her, and I've reached out and expressed my love and surround her with, forgiveness. And that's the phase I'm in right now is I forgive her. And
but how did you do it? So this is the thing, is that like people will say, oh, forgive, or let go. But how did you forgive? I think it's the process that gets skipped over so many times. And that was the case for me for so many years. And I've said this to you so many times, like people would say, let go, let go, let go. And I'd be like screaming on the inside, would somebody please tell me how to let go?
And I don't know if I can answer that with the actual instructions on how to do it, but I can say, working with Bob, our meditation teacher, and sitting in meditation with him and learning every other week when I meet with him, that I have been focusing my energy in the wrong place. My energy needs to be happy and vibrant and moving forward, and being stuck in this one place in the past isn't really helping.
Right.
Myself.
It's like you're hanging on to something that doesn't exist anymore.
Right. It's so far in the past. Like you said, it's 4 years ago. It's so long ago. What does that mean to me now? I'm a different person now. I'm sure she is too. And maybe we'll connect. But
and so it's not always like this face-to-face thing, because I know you've tried to reach out to her with very little success. It doesn't always have to be a face-to-face thing, right? Like for you, it's being at peace with, maybe she hasn't forgiven you, or maybe she still has that resentment. We don't know. We can't even begin to even make assumptions about that. But you can forgive and heal like energetically and send that out to her.
And I think I've worked on that, and it's
so I think you do know the how. I think that's how you've done it.
It's the meditation.
Sitting.
I know. It always comes back to meditation.
Because that's the thing. The mind wants to overcomplicate it. It wants to point the finger. It wants to create further separation. When the fact of the matter is that everything can be healed. We have everything we need to heal relationships, to help put our body back into balance as best we can. We've got this power, and it really comes from tapping into the high vibe, the higher mind, that all-knowing voice inside, and back into our true nature, which is, without dispute, is love. And that's what forgiveness needs. It requires a generosity of spirit.
In calming your mind, sitting there quietly in a calm, quiet fashion with yourself and your thoughts, you can't help but see clarity. Clarity surfaces in those moments. There may be a lot going on, and you may need to stick with it for a few sessions, but clarity does come around, and you begin to truly realize what is driving those thoughts in your mind. And in this instance, and in many instances since, meditation has quieted my mind and focused on the things that I truly can address and improve upon. And that's just my experience with the meditation. But I think as we go through day in and day out, we have all these thoughts. I don't even know how many thoughts. You gave a stat last time, how many thoughts go through your mind.
Oh, I don't even know how they calculate
day.
this, but I've seen estimates, up to 90,000 thoughts a day. And our thought life has so much to do with the ease or dis-ease of our existence. So I'm going to share my experience, and I think I can bring in some tools of actually how to forgive, because I believe that this is such a purpose for me in this life, is to share with people the how. Because for so long, I wanted to let go. I wanted to forgive myself for doing things that weren't very nice. And I just didn't know how to do it. And so an easy way that I did it was, drinking wine, smoking a lot of weed. I remember I used to smoke a lot of pot. And because I loved the way that I felt like I could just be in the moment that I was in without too much thought, because my mind was ruling me so much at the time that was a great escape. And like the Maharaji, who I love the story. A great movie is Ram Dass's Fierce Grace, and he did a lot of psychedelics. And he brought them over to India. And I'm probably telling the story wrong, but long story short, the Maharaji said, yeah, give me some of that LSD, I'll take it. And so Ram Dass told him just take a little bit, and he took a ton of it. And it had no effect on him. And what he was showing Ram Dass was you can reach this level that people reach through drugs and psychedelics, and this feeling of peace. And, really like, I guess through drugs, it would be escape. Through spirituality, it's healing. That you can do the same thing through meditation. And so that's really, for me, I guess I'm admitting this right now, because the whole thing about forgiveness is just like humility and being vulnerable. But I was a closet pot smoker. Nobody knows how much pot I smoked except for me. It was a lot. And when I really was diving into my meditation practice, I was realizing that I was feeling better from meditation than I was from the drug that I thought I was going to smoke forever. Because I thought it helped me be a great writer. I thought it made me funny. I thought it allowed me to be myself. And what I'm realizing is that meditation is doing all of those things and even more. I never thought I would be a podcast host. If I was a podcast host right now, stoned, I would be losing. It would not have been good. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is back to my experience with, I can't believe I just went into all that. Anyway,
getting real here.
Back to my experience with your sister. I had felt for a long time that her and I were just a misconnection. We were like, I was the round hole and she was the square peg. And and then as we went to Boulder, and I remember when we eloped, she was very upset, and I think it was easy. I'm just assuming, but I'm assuming it was easy for her to project that anger at me because she loved you so dearly, and I know she still does love you so dearly. So it was really, really easy. And so then when we showed up that day, and here I am, a woman who's not even contributing to this family party, which haven't always been known to be your typical like homemaker, caretaker kind of person. I'm getting better, but and it was just like I said before, it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And you were in the kitchen, you were having very intense conversation with her, and I walked in and I said, "Is everything okay?" And she said something, and I said, "Well, it doesn't seem like it's okay." And then that was it. It was just a lot of violent communication directed right at me. And I remember just standing there and I could feel it, and it was hitting me in the heart, and it hurt so much. Like physically, it was like somebody taking a knife and just stabbing it into my chest. And I remember just standing there, and the only thing I could say, and I don't know if it was the right thing, but it was the thing that I said, I just kept saying, "I'm so sorry, you're so sad." Because that was all. I wasn't seeing like, you're this, you're that, like, I don't like you. I was just seeing a person who is suffering. And I know suffering for sure. And so maybe for me, it was like a moment where I was really feeling compassion for her. And I didn't retaliate, which can oftentimes make people even more angry because you're not engaging with them. And I just saw her pain body was just ready to fight, and mine was like not going to go there at all. And we left the party, and it was like, even when we were leaving the party, it was like nobody was even saying anything. They were like, "Okay, see you later." It was very strange. and we left the party and we were driving home, and I remember I had you pull over and I just like lost it and I was crying. And I remember just saying like, oh my God, that was, she was so mean. These are the words I was using. I look at it a little differently now. Like, oh my God, that hurt so much. And I was meditating at the times, which I think really helped me just be there and receive it. Had I known more, I probably would have protected myself a little bit. But the tool that I used, that Bob had me use starting right away, and I think I was actually already using it. My friend Meredith had told me about it for some other things that I was dealing with, is Ho'oponopono. And this is an ancient Hawaiian chant that literally means to set straight, right? To make right order again. And it is it's based on the knowledge that anything that happens to you or that you perceive, like the entire world that you live is your creation, right? And I believe this too, because I believe in the whole, like, what you see is the mirror of what is within you, right? So now I see a really beautiful world, and I see a lot less angry people, and I know that this is the change that I've gone through. And I had a lot more, now I know now that I had so much more healing to do when we had this experience with your sister. And so therefore, if the entire world that I see as my creation and things that happen around me and not even around me, but that it is my responsibility 100%, like no exceptions, right? This is what Ho'opono means. So it is a chant that goes, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And when I first started saying it, it made me feel so vulnerable. And when I first started saying it, I was saying it in my head to myself. Nobody could even feel it or hear it, feel it. I could feel it. Like, I could feel how vulnerable that was, going up against all the anger that I had in there, the sadness that I had in there from that experience with your sister, who I really believe is one of the most beautiful souls, because she does amazing work. She is such a caregiver, and I don't believe it's set in this life for her and I to have a relationship, but that our interaction was definitely for a purpose. And what I pulled from it was that I healed greatly over that. So I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And so you say this, what happens is when you think about that situation, so you think about that thing that you're trying to forgive, whether it's yourself, whether it's somebody else, you think about that situation, and now you start to feel the energy that goes along with that, right? So whether that's sadness, resentment, and you feel it fully. So the question from our listener was, can mindfulness help with this? Mindfulness is pretty much the only thing that can help with this, because you really need to feel it. And as you are feeling it, you just, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And the idea behind it is that when you heal yourself, you heal the world. So this is something that I used it in massage when I would have people who would come in that I could just feel their energy was really intense or sad or angry. And I know now that the reason why I was feeling that is because that was unhealed within me, right? So when you see that jerk out there, or, oh, that guy's this and that, that's all, you're seeing that because it's in you. So it's this beautiful opportunity to heal. And if you just keep going there and thinking about that, someday it will make sense. But again, it's a breaking of a pattern. It's so much easier to point the finger and blame and say that guy's a jerk, or say, I can't believe that person did it, I'm not going to forgive them, or I can't believe I did that and I'm never going to forgive myself for that. But this is a very, very effective chant that has a lot of merit behind it. And for me, it's something that absolutely healed me from this situation.
Yeah, to your point about just taking responsibility for yourself, basically. And what I see, what you say is, for me, it translates into so many areas of your life. Just take ownership of your life. Take ownership of your feelings. Don't get caught up in the, that person did that and that person
That's the ego
said
trap.
this.
It's the ego trap.
But that's the easier way,
Right.
easier path.
This is how we're conditioned living in this world. Yeah, for sure. And did we say this on the first episode? Like, you're going to hear this a million times. The spiritual path, this path of loving kindness and compassion and self-love and forgiveness is not for the faint of heart.
And I think that aligns with us. We're hardcore triathletes. We're Ironman athletes. Like, we suffer. We know how to... And I think that's why we're so drawn to this. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, like I was being interviewed today for an article in the paper about our tour that is coming up. And I was talking about how, I can finish an Ironman with ease. And she just looked at me like, how do you do that? And I said, but that doesn't mean that I don't feel pain.
Right.
It's just, what is my relationship to that pain? I'm going to feel it. I'm not going to attach to it, and I'm just going to let that energy flow through me. So it's the same thing with this resentment, anger. Feel it. Don't attach it to another person. It has nothing to do with that person. You're the one that's carrying it around. It doesn't even, the event, the thing that you did, the thing that the person did to you, the only reason that ever happened was because you were supposed to heal something over it. And if you just carry it around with you and you don't heal it, right, like through a tool like Ho'oponopono, you're never going to learn what you're supposed to learn and heal from in this life.
But that's the great thing about this is that you take ownership, which means you have the power to change it yourself, right? You have the ownership of this situation. It's all about you, but you have the power to change.
Right.
I truly believe that. You may need the tools to do that, but you have the power, you have the control, and that's sort of freeing in a way.
Oh, it's so freeing. Are you kidding me? This is it's the definition of freedom. Yeah, it's going to feel good for us to, drive out of our driveway and like not have to pay a mortgage. And, we've worked for the last 10 years to pay off debt and things like that. Yeah, that's freedom. That's just material world freedom. The freedom that I find is that when I go to bed at night, like, I'm not carrying around resentment for anyone. And it has nothing to do with me not having experiences in my life where I've had conflict or people have treated me in a way that is less than desirable. It has nothing to do with those people. It has everything to do with the work that I've done within me to heal that energy.
The energy and work you do for yourself outlays to what's out in the world, and you'll reap those rewards down the road.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what Ho'oponopono is all about. You heal yourself, you heal the world.
Right.
We are all connected, right? We are all connected and it's the ego that wants to separate us. But whatever, your dogma or your religion or whatever, we came here from a source far greater than what we could ever imagine. Science can't even figure it out. And really the whole creation and spirituality, it really, really is a science, but there's an endpoint where they just can't figure it out. But we all came from this source. We are all connected. So your sister in that moment when she was suffering, that's my suffering too. And I was seeing that. It was being projected at me because it was in me. And now another tool that's really good is finding one good thing about that person, and then you focus on that, right? And you focus, like, your sister is amazing. She works in the emergency room. She's a wonder. I know, I've never had a close relationship with her, but I know she's an amazing mother. And she's worked with handicapped kids. I hope that's even like politically correct. I don't know. There's so many rules these days, but I mean it with a beautiful intention. She has worked with people with disabilities, and she has so much to give. And I remember I would focus on those things when I would feel, when I would think about the situation and the hurt would come up, I would think about that. Now, in those moments, it is so much easier to focus on the sadness, the pain, the resentment. It's so much easier. And so what you need to ask yourself is, what of those thoughts is more loving? Like, what is closer to my true nature? Well, looking at what it is that she is so perfect and meant for. She was not meant for resentment and anger and suffering, I think we all are meant for suffering. That's how we heal in this life. But what I'm saying is that's not like loving, but there's so much about her that is loving. So I would focus on that. And it's those times where you want to get people on board. Oh, can you believe this? I remember I had family members.
The ego wanting, come on board.
The ego wants to get a whole bus full of people to get on board with you and go, oh yeah, you were wronged. And I had people in my family that wanted to jump on that bus. And I love them dearly, and maybe they're not listening, but I still feel sometimes like they still bring it up. And I try to convey, although I don't know if the communication is really received in the way that I intend it, that I really have healed around it through this act of forgiveness. So finding at least one good thing about that person and focus on it, especially in the moments when your ego wants to indulge in non-loving thoughts about that experience or that person. So that's another one. And what you do, like same thing with Ho'oponopono, you just over and over and over and over and over until that energy, that sensation dissipates, because it will. Right? So you can either wait for it to dissipate or you can feed it and then just put more in your storage tank. So the other thing that you can do is, and this goes back to A Course in Miracles, is just, like, have you ever been guilty of the same in any form, right? Like, have I ever lashed out at somebody because of my own pain and suffering? Yeah. Oh, you bet I have. Right? Have you?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So how when we are, like my yoga teacher, like in our trainings, we really look deeply into this about ego and forgiveness. And we look at like even murderers. Like, have you ever killed a life? I have.
I definitely have.
Yeah.
For sure.
In
animals' life.
Yeah, like, so, the
frogs.
The frogs.
And the rabbits.
Yeah, you told me a story about the rabbit.
Oh, awful.
Earlier. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's terrible. Awful. Are you feeling that now because you never told me that story before?
No, yeah, it's awful. My brother and I, it must have been in Maine, I think, when we were vacationing up there. My brother and I were coming back from a run or a walk, or probably not a run. I don't think we were runners at the time. And we were coming up the driveway, and there's a rabbit there, and we picked up rocks and started throwing rocks at the rabbit. And all of a sudden, the rabbit didn't move.
It probably had a heart attack. That's the thing. That's usually what happens, is that they have heart attacks because he was probably so scared.
It was awful, and it's horrible. So going back to forgiveness, in the moment, I was probably a little scared. We had to tell our parents. But, bringing that up now, it's extremely emotional because another animal's life was
took a life
taken, and it's hard.
Yeah, so you're feeling that now. Like, I think that was, you never told me that. I think that was something that was like buried. Yeah. So we owe wonderful gratitude to this listener that wrote in this question, because you're healing over the death of this rabbit that you essentially caused.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very wrong.
So there's no difference, between myself and a murderer, really, because I have taken life before. Like, spiders and things like that. Like, I mean, I'm on the major catch and release now. I've done that for so many years. But ants and, things like that, like that's a life. That is a divine incarnation. And so it's, have you ever been guilty of the same, right? And you got to look deep, 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 and you have to sort through the argument against, because people are going to be like, yeah, but it's a spider. Yeah, but it's an ant. It doesn't matter. It was a life. I took it.
The same can be said for the way people choose to eat and their nutritional choices.
Yeah, I mean, who was it? Was it the Dalai Lama who said that? Was it the Dalai? I'm not sure. Oh, I'm going to misquote this, but if slaughterhouses had glass walls, that nobody would eat meat.
Everybody would be vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and because that would require you to see and feel and experience the suffering and the pain. And it's when I started to internalize that within me, that was really, really intense. And there are still moments now. So I think that there's still energy within me from eating animals throughout the years. Mostly for me, it was dairy. And that's the one that is so painful in my heart, is the dairy industry. So painful in my heart. And I ate a lot of cheese. I was such a cheeseaholic because I thought, oh, well, it's dairy, like dairy's fine. And what I know now is it's so sad. It's so sad, and it's so violent, and it's so, I don't want to say it's the worst because it's all so bad, but it's
deep.
It really has affected me very deep. And I know that I still have healing to go around. So what do I do in those moments when that comes up? And there was, we were watching Cowspiracy. Do you remember this? And there was a moment where I think they were talking about the dairy industry, and I just had this, like, it all came up, and I was like, I had to walk away. And I went upstairs and I sat in a meditation. So that's what I do now, is I sit in a meditation and I just feel the energy. And usually it's followed by like a lot of tears or some kind of release. But you feel it, and I'll chant. Like now I usually just chant Om. And I do it in my head. So a lot of people think that chanting needs to be vocal, and it doesn't. Actually, when you do it in your head, like when you do it silently, you pull the divine energy in closer. That's something that I've learned. And so I will just Om myself without any worry of the time until that feeling passes. And you guys, this is the how behind healing. This is the how behind letting go. This is the how behind forgiveness. This is it. You have to feel it. And then the best thing to do, the most protective thing to do, is partner that with some kind of healing chant, Ho'oponopono, or Om, or love, or peace and harmony. Anything that comes to mind will be appropriate. And you do that over and over again until that feeling dissipates. And that's how you heal, and that's how you forgive. And I really wish they taught this in schools, because it would have saved me many years of pain and suffering.
Yeah, maybe it will be in schools in the near future.
Maybe I'm going to bring it into schools.
Maybe you will.
Yeah.
It's just bringing awareness. And I think we both, lots of chickens. I took care of a lot of chickens in my life.
You took care of them in
the respect that...
in the sense of putting them in the George Foreman grill, right, and...
grilling them up.
Oh,
which
babies.
I can't even consider doing that now. And the vibration that during that was, or the vibration I feel now is so high. So we all go through it. And have I forgiven myself? I think I've forgiven myself in that respect. And I'm working towards focusing my energy on the future. And what can I do to help bring, awareness of this, and how I can help other people in the instance if they're feeling similar ways. Yeah,
this is what makes you, I think, a wonderful coach, is like you tell them the how. I'm starting to I kind of lose my patience a little bit with like the just the really surface. And I know they're with good intention, because that is also where I started. But like the, let go, and the, just go with it. These inspirational messages. And I know that they're serving a purpose because somebody is hearing them, and at least it's bringing a positive vibration in their life. But what the world needs to know is the how and the why. Like why and why are we not? Because the ego, the negative ego, wants you to suffer. It wants to keep you separate from others. It wants you never to realize that we are interconnected on such a powerful and deep way that the suffering of that rabbit is my suffering. And your suffering is my suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so to carry around forgiveness is to cut yourself off from living fully. It's to hang on to something that doesn't exist anymore. And it's so much easier to just point the finger and keep that person in like a category of, oh, they're such a mess, what a jerk, or I can't believe they did this to me. When really the basis, the deep layer of it all is suffering. And this is where compassion comes in, because if you have experienced suffering, which I think all of us have experienced suffering, especially when we really, really experience it through mindfulness and feeling it, right? The suffering is the attachment, or the suffering is like the pushing it down. Like that really creates the suffering. But just to feel it, realize that it's just sensation, it's just energy, using some of these tools, ho'oponopono, finding one good thing about that person or about yourself, if it's self-forgiveness, looking if you've ever been guilty of the same thing in any form. You have to look deep. You're going to get a big counter argument from your mind on this one, to sit there and wait for it to dissipate, because all it is energy. If it's something that happened in the past, that event does not exist anymore. It vanished into nothingness the moment after it occurred.
And it's funny that when this question came up, you asked me, can you think of anything? And I was having trouble thinking about it. And you mentioned the DNF, and I hadn't thought about that DNF in a long time. It's sort of in the past. Well,
yeah.
It is in the past.
But when you think about it and you talk about it, you feel to me like moment. You're pretty healed about it, though. Like
I'm healed now.
Yeah.
For sure. But I hadn't thought about it in a while. So I that's confirmation that I've moved on, and I've taken what I could from it, learned from it, and applied it to what I do now.
Yeah, and don't you see the amazing purpose that it served?
Yeah, it happened exactly as it should have happened. It's exactly what should have happened that day. I would not be the athlete, coach, person, husband,
dog dad
that I am today if I didn't fail. And failure's good. Keeps me coming back, made me stronger.
Yeah. And that nothing is a mistake. And, I think there's this idea that life is supposed to be, it's supposed to be peaceful, and it's supposed to, it's supposed to be happy and great, and, oh yeah, I'm fine. And I love, this is going to bring in a bad word, so I'm not going to say it. Well, I can abbreviate it. So, fine, which I've learned through my yoga teacher, like, he said, what does fine mean? Do you guys know what fine means? And we're like, oh, it means you're okay. And he said, no, it means you are effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So like, you got to watch out for like that. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, everything's great. Because that's not life in my experience. It's a very, very rich itinerary. And this life that we live is, it's not about, just getting through this week so you can go on vacation, or getting through the holidays so it can be normal again. This is a school of life. This is a school on this earth that we are here to grow from, and to be carrying around unforgiveness and resentment is just furthering your lesson. Like, it's just it's like, okay, well, she's not getting this lesson, so now she's just going to carry it on for years and years and years, and then it's going to fester and it's going to get bigger. So it's, it's a deal with it now or deal with it later kind of thing. But to lighten your load, to give yourself the possibility to live and love fully in this life, use these tools and start forgiving today, because that person who you might be holding a grudge against, it is possible to look at them and see them with loving compassion, and that is freedom.
Yeah, you have that choice. That is all in your control.
Yeah, and that's amazing. That's the power that we have. So this is a school, and we are powerful, and it's what are we going to do with that?
So that wraps up another
Yogi
Triathlete podcast.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't quite sure what we were going to talk about. That was good.
It was great.
I think. Yeah. I don't know. You guys send us your comments and questions. Let us know what you
think.
Yeah,
keep the questions coming. We have so much that we can talk about, but we want to hear from you so that we can answer your questions and shed some insight into something you may be struggling with or have questions about: nutrition, mindfulness, obviously, training, anything. We're open for it all. So reach out to us. You can follow us on all our social media accounts. Everything is Yogi Triathlete, our website, and we're just a few short weeks from starting our adventure. So be sure to follow us, sign up on our website, and follow us along on our journey. We'd love to have you come along.
Guys, that was it. Episode 5 on forgiveness. Such a heavy topic, but one that we've all had to deal with, and we hope that you found this episode to be helpful. Those techniques are really effective when you put them to work. So any questions on the techniques or feedback that you have from this episode, please let us know all about that, and take a few moments to leave a review on iTunes. That would be really helpful for us. But thank you so much for tuning in and for continuing to share this podcast with your family and friends. We want to build this tribe. You guys are a part of it, and we're super excited to be on this journey with you. So thanks for helping us make this happen every single week. And I'm sending you right now lots of love for whatever it is that is holding you back in this life. Our inability to forgive or to let go of resentment or to stop pointing the finger of blame at other people really holds us back, and that, I believe, we'll never be able to be that athlete we aspire to, that parent, that professional, in order to live our purpose. I just don't feel that we'll ever be able to do those things without enacting forgiveness on such a major scale. So I'm sending you lots of love to lift those things in your life so that you can move forward and be your best, most powerful self. And that all said, you guys, you know what it all boils down to. It boils down to riding the high vibe every day, no matter what.